It is the big school game of the week as voted on by you, the fans. It's from Class 3A. And actually, I'll say the fans chose a different game. I decided to choose a different one. And so I'm going Buffalo at Douglas. Both teams come in 5-1, 3-0 in conference action. On the phone with me is the head coach of the Buffalo Bison, Coach Hammond. And, Coach, talk a little bit about, I hate to say it, but Mother Nature has interfered with your preparation for this game in a major way. And I hate to bring that up, but it is kind of significant at this time of the year, isn't it?
It is. We have a saying on our team to prepare for chaos. We always say, Murphy's Law, when there's some of those weeks every year when Murphy's Law hits and everything that could go wrong would. And we scream, our kids all scream, attack Murphy. And it's just like a mindset thing where we're trying to make sure that we're just dealing with whatever's dealt the best we can. And we've had to do that this week with all the snow that we had in town. We were able to practice on Monday, and we weren't able to practice on Tuesday or Wednesday because we didn't have school. So we're going to see if we did our job the past couple of weeks and we have our kids prepared, and I think we do. We're not going to use it as an excuse, but it has made it a challenging week as far as trying to make sure that we're preparing for Douglas because they present a big challenge for us for sure.
Well, speaking of that, this is kind of a rivalry matchup, and not everybody looks at it that way, but it really has become through the years. And I know I talked with you and Jay before this matchup a couple years ago, and that was when Buffalo had dropped down to 2A, but you guys were still playing each other. How do you look at this big matchup in the rivalry between Buffalo and Douglas?
You nailed it. This is a rivalry game through and through. It's one of those games where if you think Powell Cody or Jackson Star Valley, where you throw the records out. And last year when we played them, that was a good example. They hadn't lost, and we'd only won one game, and it came down to be a one-score game. This is a rivalry game more than anything else. After our game last week, I told the kids, congrats, we put ourselves in a great spot, but who cares because we're playing Douglas next week. So I wouldn't say it's personal as far as it's a dislike thing, but we really respect Douglas. It's the biggest game for us every single year, and it's a game we want to win because there's some bragging rights, and it's a rivalry in all sports. So this is a big one for us. I can't lie and say we don't want to beat Douglas because we definitely do.
Well, let's talk about what have you seen out of your team so far? You had the big blowout against Newcastle to start. You slipped past Green River. You lost to a really good Cody team, but now you've started to rattle off some victories. So what have you seen in kind of the ebb and flow of the season to this point when we're so close to the playoffs now?
A couple things, and it's fun to learn about your team every single year because it's a different group of young men, and you just kind of figure out your identity each year, and you figure it out as the season goes. But number one, these guys have a hunger to get better. We have gotten better week to week. When we watched our first two games of the year, we weren't a very good football team. And we went over to Cody, and we thought we were probably okay because we were 2-0, and we got drilled by Cody. And our kids learned what a good football team was like, and they took that really well, and we've gotten better week to week. And defensively, our kids have learned to prepare, and we have really good team speed this year. So we've learned that if we can just get lined up and diagnose what's going on, we can play with speed, and we tend to tackle really well. And then offensively, our offense has really evolved. We were kind of just relying on the run game early, but our passing game has taken off, and the main thing is that I just see we're a team that just wants to continue to get better, and we've gotten better game to game, and I think we've gotten better from the first half to the second half in each game as well. I think we're probably scoring more points in the fourth quarter than any other quarter. So, that's a sign that we have a really young team still. We're only playing 5 seniors, so these are kids that are learning on the fly, and they're not backing away from challenges and getting better week to week, and even sometimes series to series within a game. So it's fun to watch our kids accept challenges and rise up to them.
Well, speaking of one of your veterans, it's Jackson Moon. If I remember correctly, you and I talked a couple years ago, and you were getting ready to start him as a sophomore. What have you seen in his development? And you mentioned that passing game taking off this season.
Well, there's a cliche that we throw around all the time that the game seems to slow down for a quarterback, and I really think it has. And what I think that means is he's just able to – his eyes are up in the passing game, so he's not worried about the pass rush anymore. And now that his eyes are up, he's able to make reads where sometimes he's sitting his second, and even a couple times, it doesn't happen very often in high school, he's gone to his third read. So, really he just understands what we want to do, and he understands our offense and where the ball should go. So he's making his first read, but if the defense, and we play good defenses, if they take away our first read, he knows to throw it to the second or the third guy. So, it's a thing that comes with experience. and it comes with maturity, and then he's accepting responsibility and doing a lot with it. He's been able to throw the ball. Well, his last name is Moon. If you're Moon from Buffalo, you're playing quarterback. So he always has it. He can throw a good spiral, and he's got a strong arm. He's always had that, but now he's understanding what to do with the football. And, another thing I'd like to say about him is he's really leading the team. He's learned to be calm. He's learned to just, be the guy in the huddle that no matter if we had a good play or a bad play, he's telling everybody, hey, next play, win the moment. We just want to play one play at a time. So he's being a leader for us as well as just understanding how to play quarterback.
Well, it looks like you've got two good weapons that you can get the ball to, one being Ben Camino when Jackson decides to hand it off, and another being Blake Bell in your passing game.
Yeah, those are, that's kind of the offenses seem to run through those guys. Ben does a good job of, when he finds a hole, sometimes we have a really small offensive line. They're fast, but they're small. So we don't typically open up these huge gaping holes for him to lumber through. So he's really learned if he sees a little opening, he just puts his foot in the ground and he darts through, and he's fast and he's strong. And, we tell him get 4, get 5 if you can. And, but a lot of times as the game goes on, where he's getting 3 or 4 in the first quarter, he's strong enough that there are big games in the second half. So, he's a pretty dynamic runner, just kind of a slasher is how a lot of people describe him. And then Blake Bell he's probably our best athlete, and he's been that way for a while, but he's another kid that's starting to understand the game. And, he's fast and he's strong, but he tracks the ball really well. So sometimes the ball's in the air and it's a 50-50 ball and the defender's in good position, but he has that gift of being able to go up and just get the ball when the other kid can't. So, those two have scored a lot of touchdowns for us this year. And, we have a lot of other kids around him who I feel like could make plays as well, but it seems like it's gone through those two more than anybody else.
Well, let's talk about your defense. What are you seeing on that side of the ball, really anchored by a guy who might have a nose for the football in Eli Patterson?
Yeah. Number one, it's just we have 11 guys who they line up and they're all fast. Every single kid runs to the ball, and we count every single Monday with the kids of, how many times do we have 6 or 7 kids in on a tackle. And that happens more than you'd think. So they're all flying to the ball. You're right. He's had a great year. He's a sophomore, and we're for sure about throwing a sophomore out there as a middle linebacker because you're making a lot of reads and you're having to fight off blocks every single play and make a tackle. But he's been lights out for us. He's just kind of the steady guy in the middle, and we hope he can take care of A gap to A gap, and then we let the other guys run to the ball. But we're really pleased with how well he's developed, and again, just being a sophomore, he's getting better as the season goes too.
All right, let's talk about the big matchup. You got to travel down to Douglas and take on Jay Rhodes and the Bearcats. What do you look at when you see Coach Rhodes' squad on film, and what you're kind of anticipating Friday night from seeing from the Bearcats?
Well, they're a very good football team. Coach Rhodes and his staff, they do a great job. It doesn't really matter their talent level. They're always going to put a good team on the field, no matter what. But then when you mix a bunch of talent in there with them, they're really scary, and that's what I see this year. Their offense is hard to prepare for because they have a new kid at quarterback. Jackson Hughes is making good plays, throwing the ball and running the ball. Their little receiver, the Ware kid, he's dangerous. We're scared every time he touches the ball, whether it be on special teams or on offense, because he's fast and he's good in open space. The running back is good. The Ewing kid, if you give him just a little bit of room, he'll take it all the way. So they do a great job. Their scheme is sound. There's not anything that we can really do to line up just to say, hey, it's going to be an easy play here or there. You have to earn everything against Douglas. So they're a good team. They're physical. They're fast. They're well coached. They know their assignment. So it's going to be a huge test, and I know we're really excited to go play those guys because to win at Douglas is a tough thing. They play really well at home. They play with a lot of emotion, so we're going to have to be up to that test. Speaking of that, what are some of your big keys? What's got to happen to tip the scales in your favor Friday night on the road? Well, first of all, we're going to have to take care of the ball. We've gotten away with some turnovers this year, and our kids have been resilient to overcome those, but that's not going to be a recipe or a good recipe for us Friday night. So we have to take care of the ball, number one. Number two, we have to make sure when Douglas has the ball and we're lined up on defense that we have to be lined up before the play. Because Coach Rhodes does a great job of calling plays, and he's up above in the booth, and he does a great job of seeing if you're not lined up the right way, the next play is going to attack your weakness. So we're going to have to line up and make sure we're playing assignment football. And then we're going to have to tackle really well. And then the third thing is we can't play with fear. When you play a good team at home and they're an emotional team, when they make a couple plays here or there, that doubt starts to creep in your mind. And we've talked about with the kids all year long that we're going to have to win each moment and forget about every play, because if we're playing an emotional game, it's going to be rough for us. So we're going to have to be steady, be in the moment, win each play, no matter what happened the play before, and try to play a full 4 quarters and win it in the fourth quarter.
With that, Coach Hammond, I greatly appreciate the time today. Best luck Friday night in Douglas against the Bearcats.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it.
Continuing the conversation, it is the Wyopreps Big School Game of the Week, and it's a showdown in Class 3A between a pair of teams that are 5-1 on the season and also 3-0 in their conference. I'm talking about Douglas versus Buffalo. And I'm on the phone with head coach Jay Rhodes of the Douglas Bearcats. And Jay, thanks so much for taking some time to visit with me about this big matchup. I know it's kind of a rivalry matchup, and it was a little different because Buffalo dropped down for a few years to 2A, but now they're back up in 3A. And has that kind of rekindled the rivalry matchup between the Bison and the Bearcats, you think?
Yeah, even when they were down at 2A, we still were playing. It was one of our non-conference games. It was just weird playing them. I think we played them the first game of the season, which was always strange because we always played late in the year, and it was kind of always a deciding factor on conference seeding and all that kind of stuff. So, but this has been a great rivalry. There's always something a little different about Buffalo Week when we play them, and that was whether they were 2A or 3A. When I got to Douglas in 2006, Buffalo was on a 20-some game winning streak, and I think we almost got them that very first year. I think they beat us by 1 or 2, kind of hammered us the next year, and then finally, I think the third year we won the regular season in double overtime, and then ended up playing them again in the state championship that year. And it's been a great rivalry through the years. Just talking to Coach Hammond, we were talking about different things that the kids in the past say about this game, and so it's always exciting, and it's always one of my favorite games.
Well, talk about your team. You're sitting at 5-1. I know you had that tough loss on the road at Powell where you guys got shut out. What's kind of changed here recently to get things going back in the right direction, do you feel?
Well, I think the biggest thing, when we went up to Powell, we were missing our starting tailback. We were missing one of our inside receivers that has been just huge for us, blocking on the edge. So, our defense played outstanding up at Powell. They only gave up one score, and that was on a broken play. Their other score was a pick six that we threw. A costly penalty got them in range to hit a field goal on us. So we really felt like a 17-0 doesn't really reflect how that game was. Our defense, again, was just outstanding in that game. And so I don't think there's really anything that's changed or done we've done differently. It was, I think the biggest thing is getting a couple players back and and then our defense continuing to play really well. I think that's been kind of our what has really led us is our defense and not allowing teams to rush the ball on us. So we've given up a few pass yards, but in high school football, if you can stop the run, it bodes well for you.
Well, you've also at the same time, Jay, had a couple of games where you didn't play. You had some forfeit wins. How has that impacted your season this year, you feel?
I think once we get to Fridays and we get to play a Friday night game, I don't think it doesn't seem like as bad, but at the time, when you got to tell kids on Thursday night or Friday morning, even with our first game with Torrington, that we're not playing the game, it's a real letdown, and so it's all you can do to keep your kids pumped up enough. It's kind of. You don't get much out of them if you do a regular practice. So, when we lost that first game, we didn't even practice that day. When we lost the second game, we brought them out and ran them a little bit and sent them on their way. And so I think the once we get through that next week, but man, it just seems like you're in a preseason type situation, practicing for 2 weeks for a game kind of all year. So it's definitely been an adjustment, and then just with some weather here recently, changing some games and changing times and different practice times. And, it's one of those years where you're just kind of thrown a lot at you, and you got to deal with the cards that you've been dealt and make the best of it.
Let's go back and focus on your squad. You talked about how well your defense is playing, led by guys like Carter Archuleta and Luke Skeen. What are you seeing on that side of the ball that makes you so successful? Whether it's shutting down the run and, as you mentioned, giving up some pass yards, but you still have a number of guys with interceptions, and heck, you've had even 4 defensive touchdowns this year.
Yeah, I give a lot of credit to Wes Gamble. He's kind of our he's our defensive coordinator, and he puts together schemes that really fit the talent level of the kids that we have. We've got kids that can run pretty well, so our speed is good. The defense that he has installed and the way he calls it and stuff really utilizes the talents of those kids. And Coach Gamble's just an extremely smart football coach that can watch film and really focuses on kind of taking away a team's best plays and not just trying to stop everything, but taking away what they do well, and that's really been key. So much of the credit for our defense not only goes to our kids and how well they play, but Coach Gamble and Coach Stinson and actually Coach Gamble's son Tanner helps us too with that, and those guys really put together good schemes every week. And like I said, if you can stop the run in high school football, you got a real shot to win games.
Talk a little bit about a couple of guys. Kelton Ewing, having another good year on the ground, and I know he does some good things on defense. And then Rylan Weir seems to be just one of those kind of all-around special talents that you've had from time to time up there, Jay.
Yeah, definitely. Rylan is just an extremely great competitor, and he can just be dangerous in so many ways. I mean, punt return, kick return, catching the ball, and then, does a nice job on defense as well, always covering up, their better receivers. Offensively, feel really good about where we're at. Jackson Hughes, our quarterback, is new. He's a first-year starter. He's a junior, and has just been doing an incredible job of every week just getting a little bit better. And Kobe Case kind of he was our quarterback last year and made the sacrifice, so to speak, or whatever, to move out to one of our inside receivers, and it has just been probably one of the best inside receivers that we've had here because he blocks so well. He has kind of that outside or a linebacker mentality when he's out there blocking, and that has been just huge for us in our run game. Kelton Ewing is just a special kid that, like you said, helps us on defense, but where he is just such a tough runner. He can break tackles, he can make guys miss, and he's got speed in the open field to run away from people. So he's had an incredible year. He didn't get a play against Powell, or his yardage totals don't look great, but his yards per game is well over 100 yards, and he is one of those type of players that anytime he touches the ball can possibly go to the house with it.
All right, let's talk about the matchup against Buffalo. What do you look at when you see Coach Hammond's squad this season?
The biggest thing that always stands out is just how hard those kids play. Coach Hammond and his coaches up there got a lot of respect for those guys, and they do a great job getting teams ready. But just, they've got some good speed. But it looks like they're pretty solid in every position, and they just play hard. And we know they're going to play hard against us. So I think that's the biggest thing that jumps out to me is I know that they're going to come out and they know the importance of this rivalry and what it means this year to conference seeding and where you're at in the playoffs. So this is a huge game for both teams. So we know they're going to come out and play well.
What is it going to take to get a victory on Friday night, you feel, Jay?
Well, I feel, I didn't really mention the play of our offensive line has been phenomenal this year. Those guys just keep coming together every week. So I think that's going to be a real key to this game, especially being a little bit colder weather. The throwing games, we'll try to be as balanced as we can, but I really think it's going to come down to the guys up front. And, we feel really good about our offensive and defensive lines and what they've been able to accomplish this year. And so I think it's going to be a battle that's won up front. like most football games, but especially when you got some weather, some different weather to deal with, that becomes even, a bigger factor. So I think that, for us to win, we got to control the ball, and we got to stop their run. And they also have capability of some big plays with their throwing game. So, stopping the run, take away the big plays, and then us just take care of the football will be the biggest keys.
Jay, always a pleasure. I appreciate the time. Best luck, and perhaps we'll catch you down the road.
All right, sounds good.